Welcome to the Chocolates class. In this class, we are going to study about the skeleton. The skeleton is divided into two types, axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton has skull, vertebral column, sternum and ribs. In previous video, we discussed about the skull. In this video, we are going to know about the vertebral column, sternum and ribs. The vertebral column. It is also known as a backbone. This vertebral column has structural units called vertebrae. These are the vertebrae. And these are divided into cervical vertebrae, thoracic vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae, sacral vertebrae, and coccygeal vertebrae. The cervical vertebrae are 7. All mammals have 7 cervical vertebrae in their neck. In humans, thoracic vertebrae are 12. Lumbar vertebrae are 5. Sacral vertebrae in embryonic stage or fetal stage is 5. In adult stage, they are fused to one sacrum. And coccygeal vertebrae, these are also called tail vertebrae. These are 4 or 5. In adult, the tail vertebrae are fused to one compound bone called coccyx. Thus, the vertebral column in adults has 26 vertebrae. Those are 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 1 sacrum and 1 coccyx. But in the fetal stage, the sacral vertebrae, coccygeal vertebrae are free. So, in fetal stage, 33 vertebrae are present. If coccygeal vertebrae are 5, 34 vertebrae. Otherwise, 33 vertebrae form the vertebral column. The vertebral column has 4 curvatures. One is the cervical curvature, thoracic curvature, lumbar curvature, and a sacral curvature. The cervical curvature and lumbar curvature are secondary curvatures. Thoracic curvature and sacral curvatures are primary curvatures. In the fetal stage, this is the fetal stage, the vertebral column or the fetus is C-shape. It has only sacral curvature and thoracic curvature, and cervical curvature and lumbar curvatures are absent. After the birth, when the infant raises the head, at that time, cervical curvature forms. When the infant learns to sit or walk, at that time, lumbar curvature forms. The lumbar curvature, cervical curvature, secondarily formed curvatures. So these are called secondary curvatures. Thoracic curvature and sacral curvature are present in the embryonic stage or the fetal stage. So these are called primary curvatures. Now we are going to study about the neck vertebra or the cervical vertebra. The first cervical vertebra is called atlas. The second cervical vertebra is called axis. In this atlas, vertebral body is reduced and vertebral arch also reduced. Vertebral spine is greatly reduced. Transverse processes are also not well formed. It is a ring-like vertebra. On its upper surface, it has 2 facets for occipital condyles. The axis or atlas or any neck vertebra except the 7th vertebra, they have a foramen here. This is also called vertebral arterial foramen or transverse foramen. And the atlas has one cavity called vertebral canal through which the spinal nerve cord passes. And it separates from one more canal called odontoid canal. This odontoid canal harbors the odontoid process of the axis vertebra. These are the superior articular facets for the occipital condyles. The skull and atlas, they form atlanto-occipital joint. Next, the second vertebra is axis vertebra. This axis vertebra has a transverse processes, vertebral arch, vertebral canal, and a vertebral spine or neural spine. This spine is a bifid spine. Bifid spine is found in all cervical vertebrae except the last thoracic vertebra. It has two superior articular facets to form articulation with the atlas. It has a peg-like structure called odontoid process which fits in the odontoid canal and forms a pivot joint. This is useful for the rotation of the head left to right and right to left, vice versa. Now, the thoracic vertebra. Thoracic vertebrae are 12 in number. A thoracic vertebra has one vertebral body and one vertebral arch and transverse processes and one spinous process or vertebral spine. Between the vertebral arch and the vertebral body, one canal is there. This is the vertebral canal. These thoracic vertebrae have some facets for the articulation with the ribs. This is the rib. This rib is a bicephalous rib. It has two heads. One head connects with the vertebral body. This is called capitulum. And another head connects with the transverse processes. This is called tuberculum. For these two, there are some facets are there on the thoracic vertebra. Let us see how the rib is connected to the thoracic vertebrae. Let us try to understand. See, this is the rib. The rib is a bicephalous rib. This is a tubercle of the rib. This rib is connected to the facet of the transverse process. This is the another head and it connects to the vertebrae. This is the upper vertebra. This is the lower vertebra. And here, in between these two, this head joins with the vertebral body. So, these vertebrae have inferior facet. And another is the one superior facet. Those facets for the head ribs we can find here. This is the facet for capitulum, means this one. And this is the facet for tubercle or tuberculum. And this is the superior articular process which is useful to attach with the upper vertebra. So in the lateral view, the thoracic vertebra looks like this. In thoracic vertebra, the spinous process is directed to downwards, and these are the transverse processes. This is and this one are same. These are the transverse processes. These transverse processes have the facets for tubercle of the rib. And let us see the body of these thoracic vertebra. See here, two facets are there. This is the inferior facet for the head rib, and this is the superior facet for the head rib. Here, this capitulum or the rib of the head joins with the vertebral body. The thoracic vertebrae are total 12. These thoracic vertebrae are connected with one another by articular processes. Look here, this is the superior articular process which is connected the superior vertebra or the upper vertebra, and thus they are forming the vertebral column of the thoracic region. Next, lumbar vertebra. Lumbar vertebra are 5 in number. They are very large vertebrae in the vertebral column. They have very heavy body which is also called centrum, and this is the neural arch. This is the vertebral canal. Through this vertebral canal, the spinal nerve cord travels. It has two superior articular processes. These are useful to fit with the upper vertebra, and the spinous process also very strong and very heavy. See, this is the spinous process, very heavy spinous process we can find. It has two articular processes. In this diagram, only superior articular process is shown. This superior articular process is medially arranged, and inferior articular process is laterally placed. And this is the body. This body is very heavy, and this is the transverse process. This is the spinous process. This one and this one are same. and this transverse process, this transverse process are same. This is the body and this is the body in the lateral view. The largest vertebrae in the vertebral column are lumbar vertebrae. These are 5 in number. Next, sacrum and coccyx. In the fetal stage or embryonic stage, sacral vertebrae are 5. Coccygeal vertebrae or tail vertebrae are 4 or 5. In adult, these sacral vertebrae, 5 sacral vertebrae are fused and formed one structure called sacrum, a compound bone you can find. Here we can see the articular processes. Now let us count here. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 vertebrae are united and formed a single compound structure called sacrum. This sacrum has sacral foramina which denote the intervertebral foramina of the vertebrae. Next, coccyx. It is a single bone in the adult, but in the embryonic stage or fetal stage, it has 4 or 5 vertebrae. In this one, 4 coccygeal vertebrae are shown, and these are fused and formed into a single bone called coccyx, which is also called tailbone. It is a vestigial structure in human. Now, the rib cage. The rib cage has sternum and ribs. The sternum and ribs are also a part of the axial skeleton because this sternum is present in the line of body axis. This sternum has 3 parts. One is the manubrium and the body and xiphoid process. This sternum is also called breastbone. To this manubrium, the collarbone, the clavicle is connected one end. Another end of the clavicle is connected to the scapular part. The ribs are total. There are 12 pairs of ribs are present. These ribs are bicephalous ribs. We discussed what is a bicephalous rib. Bicephalous ribs have 2 heads. One is connected to the vertebral body and another head is connected to the transverse process of the vertebra. The first 7 ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These ribs directly attached to the sternum with the help of costal cartilages. Backside, these are connected to the vertebral column, and front side, these are connected to the sternum through costal cartilage. These are 7 pairs. These are the true ribs. 8, 9, 10. These ribs are connected to the 7th rib. So indirectly, these are attached to the sternum via the 7th rib. These are called false ribs. And 11th and 12th, they are free ribs. Look here, this is the 11th and 12th. These are not attached to any part. These are called floating ribs. These are connected to only vertebral column on the back side. Front side, these are free. The rib cage is formed by sternum and the 12 pairs of ribs. In these 12 pairs of ribs, 7 pairs are true ribs, 8, 9, 10, which are indirectly connected to the sternum through 7th rib are called false ribs. 11th and 12th in the anterior side or the front side, these are not connected to any structure. These are called floating ribs. Thank you for visiting the Calculus class.